Hey everyone, and welcome to our deep dive on resilience.
Resilience.
Yeah, that thing that helps us bounce back from all the tough stuff life throws at us.
Right.
So we're going to dig into option B today by Sheryl Sandberg and Adam Grant
Okay.
and really unpack their strategies for dealing with challenges big and small.
Yeah. Option B is really great because it doesn't try to make things sound better than they are. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, life can be really hard,
Yeah.
but it's not about just getting through the tough stuff. It's
Yeah.
about figuring out how to respond to it in a way that helps you grow.
So it's less about just being tough and more about being flexible, adaptable, like a
Yeah.
willow tree, bending in the wind instead of just snapping.
I love that image.
Yeah.
And that adaptability really starts with understanding how we think,
Okay.
because our thoughts can either help us or they can really hold us back.
Mm-hmm.
And the book digs into these, what they call the 3 Ps, which are these 3 thought patterns that can trap us in negativity.
Okay, the 3 Ps, I'm very curious. Lay it on me.
Okay, so think about a time when you had a setback.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you didn't get the job you really wanted, or something went wrong at work.
Right.
Did you start blaming yourself?
Oh, yeah.
That's personalization.
Okay.
Or maybe you thought, well, now my whole career's over.
Oh,
That's pervasiveness.
okay.
And if you felt like that awful feeling would last forever, that's permanence.
Wow. Those are so, familiar. It's scary.
Yeah.
So it's like our inner critic just going into overdrive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Sandberg uses these really vivid examples from her own life, dealing with stress at work breakups, and even the immense grief after her husband died.
Oh, wow.
And she shows how these P thoughts, they just made everything harder.
Yeah, it's like they become self-fulfilling prophecies.
They totally can.
Yeah, just adding another layer of difficulty to an already hard situation.
Absolutely. But the good news is that once you know about these patterns,
Yeah.
you can start to question them.
Okay.
So, instead of blaming yourself for a setback at work, you could ask, okay, what were some things outside my control that might have contributed to this?
Mm-hmm.
Or if you're thinking the worst is going to happen, try to focus on what you can control and the steps you can take to move forward.
So just taking a step back, getting some perspective
Yeah.
and reframing those knee-jerk reactions.
Yes, and being kind to yourself in the process.
Right.
I mean, everyone makes mistakes.
Yeah.
Everyone has challenges.
Mm-hmm.
It's how you respond to those setbacks that really defines your resilience.
That's great advice, but it can be hard to go through those tough times alone.
For sure.
Option B also talks about the importance of sharing our experiences right.
Yes,
Like a problem shared is a problem halved.
absolutely.
Mm.
Sandberg talks about how after her husband's death, she really didn't want to talk about her grief.
I can understand that.
Yeah, and she saw this same kind of reluctance in other situations too, the stigma some immigrant families face when someone comes out.
Right.
But she realized that bottling things up just leads to more isolation and more suffering.
So how do we create a space where it's safe to share those really tough things?
That's a good question.
Because not everyone's good at offering support.
Yeah, that's where the idea of openers comes in.
Openers.
Yeah, these are the people who make it okay for others to be vulnerable.
Okay.
It's not about forcing anyone to share, but just creating a space where they feel comfortable doing so.
So they're like those friends who, without even saying much, just make you feel seen and heard.
Yeah,
They just create that connection where someone feels safe enough to open up.
exactly. And it's not just about listening.
Right.
It's also about responding in a way that's truly helpful.
Okay.
And this brings us to what Sandberg calls the platinum rule of friendship.
The platinum rule. I am intrigued. Tell me more. Is it like an upgrade from the golden rule?
Well, think of it this way. The golden rule is treat others the way you want to be treated.
Yeah.
But the platinum rule goes a step further. It says treat others the way they want to be treated.
It's about recognizing that everyone's needs are different,
Right.
especially when they're going through a rough time.
Yeah, that makes so much sense because I know I tend to offer advice when someone's struggling,
Yeah.
but maybe what they really need is just someone to listen or just a shoulder to cry on,
Exactly.
without judgment.
You got it. It's about offering support that really fits the person and their specific needs.
Right.
And sometimes the most supportive thing you can do is just listen
Yeah.
without trying to fix anything.
Okay, so we've talked about recognizing those negative thought patterns,
Right.
the importance of sharing and being an opener for others,
Yes.
and this platinum rule of treating people the way they want to be treated.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems like Building resilience is a lot about our mindset and how we interact with the world around us.
That's a great observation, and it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Because resilience isn't just about, like, gritting your teeth and bearing it.
It's about understanding yourself, your thought patterns, and how you can use your support system to get through challenges better.
This reminds me of something else from the book The Ring Theory.
Oh, yeah.
Can you explain that for our listener?
Sure. The Ring series is a really cool visual tool for figuring out how to offer support after like a tragedy or a major hardship.
Okay.
So imagine a bunch of circles.
Mm-hmm.
The person in the very center is the one who's most affected.
Right.
And as you move outward, each ring is someone further away from the situation.
Okay.
The idea is this comfort goes inward, complaints go outward.
Oh, that's a really good way to think about it. So if I'm like in an outer ring, I should be offering support to those closer to the center
Yeah,
and not like burdening them with my own anxieties about what happened.
exactly.
It's like emotional etiquette for tough times.
It is. It's about making sure the person at the center feels supported, not overwhelmed.
Right.
And it helps us understand where our own like anxieties and frustrations fit in. So it's okay to have those feelings, but you want to share them with someone in an outer ring,
Okay.
someone who can offer support without adding to the burden of the person at the center.
The ring theory is so simple, but it's really powerful.
It is.
It's definitely something I'm going to keep in mind, and I bet our listener will too.
I think so too.
Yeah.
It's a good reminder that even when we want to help,
Right.
we need to be thoughtful about how we offer support
Yeah.
and make sure it's actually helpful, not adding to someone's burden.
Okay, so we've covered those tricky P thought patterns.
Right.
Being an opener for others.
Yes.
The platinum rule of friendship,
Yeah.
even the ring theory. But we also have to remember to be kind to ourselves, right?
Absolutely.
It's so easy to beat ourselves up when we're going through a hard time.
For sure.
So where does self-compassion fit into all of this?
Self-compassion is huge for building resilience.
Okay.
Sandberg has a whole section of the book on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's about recognizing that you're not perfect,
Mm.
that you're going to make mistakes,
Mm-hmm.
and you deserve kindness and understanding, especially during tough times.
That's so much easier said than done, though.
It is.
It's like we're hardwired for self-criticism, especially when things go wrong.
I know it's a common struggle, but think about it this way.
Okay.
If a friend was going through a tough time, would you yell at them for messing up?
No.
Or would you offer them support and encouragement?
Of course I'd be there for them.
Right, but it's harder to do that for ourselves.
Yes.
So we need to work on changing that mindset.
Okay.
Sandberg tells this story about how Mark Zuckerberg,
Oh, wow.
her boss at Facebook, showed her compassion after she made some mistakes at work.
Mhm.
Instead of criticizing, he was understanding and supportive.
That's great.
Yeah, it's a powerful example of how, even in a high-pressure environment, a little compassion goes a long way.
Okay, so CEOs of giant tech companies mess up sometimes, too.
They do.
It's not about letting ourselves off the hook for our mistakes,
Right.
but about having realistic expectations and giving ourselves the same grace we'd give a friend.
Exactly. And part of that self-compassion is celebrating our small wins,
Okay.
no matter how small they seem.
Like what kinds of things?
Did you finally do that pile of laundry?
Oh, good one.
Did you manage to cook a decent meal after a long day?
Yeah.
Give yourself credit for those things.
Okay.
They all help you build a sense of self-efficacy and resilience.
So it's like those small wins create a positive feedback loop.
Yes.
They build our confidence and make it easier to tackle the bigger stuff.
You got it. And that feeling of accomplishment
Yeah.
can be a really powerful antidote to feeling helpless and despair,
Why?
which can be really important when you're going through tough times.
So we've talked about recognizing those negative thought patterns, the importance of sharing and supporting others,
Yes.
and treating ourselves with kindness and compassion.
Right.
What else does option B teach us about building resilience?
One of the most interesting and maybe even surprising things the book talks about is bouncing forward.
Bouncing forward.
Yeah, this idea that you can not only recover from trauma,
Okay.
but you can actually grow from it.
Wait, so you're saying something positive can come out of something as hard as trauma?
I know it sounds counterintuitive,
Yeah.
but research actually shows that people can find strength and meaning after tragedy.
Wow.
It's called post-traumatic growth.
Okay. I am intrigued. What kind of examples are in the book?
They share some really amazing stories like Joe Casper's journey of finding purpose after his son had a traumatic brain injury,
Oh, wow.
and Brooke Pallett, who found a deeper appreciation for life after surviving cancer.
So these are people who went through incredibly difficult things.
Yeah.
Yet they were able to not just cope, but actually grow from those experiences.
That's right.
It's really inspiring, but I imagine it's a hard process.
It's definitely not easy, and it's different for everyone. But a key part of it is finding joy even in the midst of adversity.
Finding joy when you're grieving or facing a major challenge, how is that even possible?
It might seem impossible, but joy can be an act of defiance,
Okay.
a conscious choice we make, even when things are hard.
Hmm.
And it doesn't have to be these big, dramatic moments.
Right.
It's about enjoying the small, everyday moments of happiness.
So like noticing a beautiful sunset
Yeah,
or enjoying a cup of coffee.
exactly.
Yeah.
Sandberg talks about how she intentionally brought back family rituals
Okay.
and found new hobbies after her husband died.
Mm-hmm.
And these simple things helped her rediscover joy and start to rebuild her life.
This is really resonating with me. It's a reminder that even when things are tough,
Yeah.
we still have the power to choose joy,
Yeah,
to find those moments of light in the darkness.
exactly.
But it's not just about personal resilience, right?
Right.
The book also talks about how we can raise resilient kids
Yes.
and build more resilient communities.
You're right. It goes way beyond just the individual.
Yeah.
Resilience isn't just a personal trait. It's something we can foster in families, schools, workplaces, even whole societies.
Okay, so how do we start? What are some key things we can do to nurture resilience in kids?
One of the most important things is helping them develop a growth mindset.
Okay.
This belief that they can learn and improve even when things are hard.
So instead of saying, I'm not good at math,
Yeah.
they can say, I'm going to keep practicing and get better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about teaching them to see challenges as chances to grow,
Right.
rather than threats to their self-worth.
And that shift in mindset can make a huge difference in how they approach those inevitable setbacks in life.
It really can. And it's also about knowing when to ask for help.
Right.
Building resilience also means teaching kids that they don't have to go it alone.
Hmm.
They can overcome challenges, but they also have a support system to lean on.
So it's about nurturing their belief in themselves while also showing them the power of connection and community.
Exactly. And it's also important to give them a sense of control, belonging, and purpose.
Can you unpack that a little bit more?
Sure. Having a sense of control means believing that their actions can make a difference,
Okay.
even when things are tough. Belonging is about feeling connected,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's to family, friends, a community, or even a shared passion.
Okay.
And purpose is about finding something that gives their life meaning and direction.
Wow, those are big concepts.
They are.
But they're so important, especially for raising kids in a world that can feel chaotic and uncertain.
Definitely. And sometimes that uncertainty includes really difficult things, like loss and grief.
Right. How do we even begin to talk to kids about those things?
That's a great question, and option B doesn't shy away from these tough topics.
Okay, good.
Sandberg stresses how important it is to talk to kids openly and honestly about loss and grief,
Mm-hmm.
rather than trying to shield them from the pain.
Because those conversations, even though they're hard,
Yeah,
can actually help them build resilience.
exactly. It's about teaching them to deal with their emotions in a healthy way
Right.
and to understand that even though life throws curveballs, they have the strength to handle those challenges.
This is such valuable advice for parents, teachers, and anyone who works with children. But how do we take these ideas of resilience beyond the individual and family level
Mm-hmm.
and apply them to building stronger, more resilient communities?
Well, option B says that resilience isn't just an individual thing.
Okay.
It's something that can be grown in communities and organizations too.
So it's about creating a culture of support and a shared sense of purpose on a larger scale.
Exactly. And the book offers some really inspiring examples of how this can be done,
Like what?
like the Posse Foundation,
Okay.
which helps underprivileged students succeed in college
Mm-hmm.
by sending them in groups or posses.
So they have a built-in support system.
Yeah.
A sense of belonging right from the start. That's brilliant.
It is. What other examples do they have?
Yeah.
Another great story is about the Alive Survivors,
Okay.
the rugby team whose plane crashed in the Andes Mountains.
Oh, wow. I remember reading about that. Their survival was incredible.
It was, and their ability to survive was largely because of their collective resilience,
Mm-hmm.
their willingness to work together, support each other,
Mm.
and make tough decisions even when things were unimaginable.
It's an incredible example of how shared purpose and human connection can fuel resilience, even in the most dire circumstances.
Absolutely. And the book also talks about the importance of shared narratives.
Shared narratives.
Yeah, the stories we tell ourselves and each other
Ah.
about resilience.
Oh, because those stories can really shape our beliefs about what's possible.
They can, if we hear stories about people overcoming adversity,
Mm-hmm.
it gives us hope and
Yep.
makes us believe we can do it too.
Right, like if they can do it, I can do it.
Exactly. Option B
Mm-hmm.
highlights how sharing stories of resilience can inspire hope,
Yeah.
create a sense of community,
Mm-hmm.
and even motivate people to help others or make positive changes.
Okay, so we've talked about individual resilience,
Right.
raising resilient kids, and building resilient communities.
Yeah.
What about fostering resilience in organizations?
Oh, that's important too.
Yeah, I mean, workplaces can be so stressful.
They can. And one of the best things organizations can do is create a culture where it's safe to talk about failure.
That's tough, though, because failure is often seen as this taboo thing.
It is something to be avoided at all costs.
Right.
But that fear of failure can actually stop innovation and creativity.
So it's about reframing failure as a chance to learn and grow.
You got it. Sandberg talks about how the Marine Corps does debriefings after every mission,
Okay.
whether it was a success or a failure,
Mm-hmm.
to analyze what worked, what could be improved, and capture those lessons.
That makes a lot of sense. Every experience, even the ones that don't go as planned,
Right.
can be valuable if we're willing to learn from them.
Exactly. And that's the key to a resilient organization.
Okay.
A culture of continuous learning and improvement where people feel safe to take risks, experiment, and learn from their mistakes.
Okay, I feel like my brain is about to explode.
I know.
We've covered so much.
We have.
Understanding resilient, those tricky thought patterns,
Mhm.
the importance of shared experiences and support,
Yeah.
raising resilient kids, building strong communities, even creating resilient organizations.
That's a lot to take in.
It is.
But what's amazing is that while option B focuses a lot on coping with loss,
Right.
its lessons apply to any challenge we face in life.
It's like a roadmap for whatever life throws at us.
It is.
And a reminder that resilience is a muscle we can all strengthen no matter what obstacles we face.
And that process of strengthening can be really empowering. It
Yeah.
allows us to not just survive tough times, but to come out of them stronger and more capable.
So how can our listener take all of this amazing info and apply it to their own life?
One of the most powerful questions from the book is this: what would you do if you weren't afraid?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, it really makes you look at those fears holding you back.
It does.
And I think option B gives us the tools and inspiration to start answering that question.
Okay.
It encourages us to take small steps towards building resilience and creating a life that's more fulfilling and meaningful, and yes, even joyful, no matter what challenges come our way.
I love that it's like a permission slip to step outside our comfort zones.
Yeah.
And start living a bolder, more resilient life.
Exactly. It's a reminder that even when life throws curveballs,
Mm-hmm.
we have the strength not just to survive, but to thrive.
That's a powerful message.
It really is. And, building resilience isn't just about those like big life challenges.
Right.
It's also about navigating those everyday stresses,
Yeah.
those little setbacks we all deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Like, think about it.
Okay.
How do you usually react when things don't go your way?
Ooh.
Whether it's traffic, a spilled coffee, a disagreement with a coworker.
I'm definitely guilty of letting those little things get to me.
Yeah.
It's like my inner peace can be completely thrown off by like a misplaced set of keys.
Oh, I totally get it. We've all been there.
Yeah.
But the good news is that even small changes in our mindset and habits
Mm-hmm.
can make a big difference in how we handle those everyday annoyances.
Okay.
And these same skills can help us when we face bigger challenges later on.
Right.
It's like building up a resilience reserve.
Oh, I love that analogy. A resilience reserve. It's like putting money in the bank for a rainy day,
Right.
but for our emotional well-being.
Exactly.
So how do we make those deposits?
Good question.
What are some practical things we can do to build up that reserve?
Well, mindfulness is a great place to start.
Okay.
Have you ever noticed how your mind can just like spiral into negativity
Oh, yeah.
without you even realizing it?
Huh.
You're stuck in traffic and suddenly you're replaying that awkward conversation from earlier,
Right.
stressing about your to-do list, feeling totally overwhelmed.
Ugh, yes. It's like my
Yeah.
mind has a talent for finding the worst case scenario.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Well, mindfulness helps us break free from that spiral.
Yeah.
It's about paying attention to the present moment without judgment, just noticing your thoughts and feelings without getting swept away by them.
So it's like hitting the pause button on that mental chaos
Exactly.
and then choosing a more helpful response.
Yes, and there are so many simple ways to practice mindfulness in your daily life.
Like what?
It could be as simple as taking a few deep breaths
Okay.
before you respond to a stressful email,
Mm-hmm.
or really savoring your morning coffee
Right.
instead of just gulping it down while you're scrolling through your phone.
I can see how those little moments of mindfulness could really add up,
They do.
like tiny resets for our nervous system.
Exactly.
And speaking of simple but powerful tools, option B also talks about gratitude, right?
Yes. Cultivating gratitude is like a superpower for building resilience.
Okay.
It helps us shift our focus from what's wrong to what's right,
Mm-hmm.
even when things are tough.
Because there's always something to be grateful for,
Right.
even if it's just a sunny day or a good meal.
Absolutely. And the research on gratitude is amazing.
Really?
Studies show that practicing gratitude can improve our mental and physical health,
Wow.
make us happier, and even strengthen our relationships.
So it's like a happiness hack.
It kind of is.
But sometimes when you're feeling down, it's hard to even know where to start with gratitude.
I know what you mean.
Do you have any tips?
Sure. One simple practice is keeping a gratitude journal.
Okay.
Each day, just write down a few things you're grateful for, big or small.
Like what kinds of things?
It could be anything: a cozy bed, a funny text from a friend,
Right.
a delicious cup of tea.
I like it.
Another great practice is expressing gratitude to others.
Okay.
Send a thank you note, tell someone you appreciate them, or just smile at a stranger.
I love those ideas. They're so easy to do.
They are.
And yet they can have such a big impact on our well-being.
It's true.
It's like those little acts of gratitude ripple outwards, creating a more positive and connected world.
They do. And remember, building resilience is a journey, not a destination.
Right.
There will be days when you feel strong and capable,
Mm-hmm.
and there will be days when you feel overwhelmed and discouraged.
Totally.
And that's okay.
It's like those nature metaphors we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Some days we're like that mighty oak standing tall, weathering the storm, and other days we're more like the willow bending low,
Exactly.
letting the wind pass over us.
That's a beautiful way to put it. The key is to keep practicing those resilience building skills day after day, so that when the storms do come, you'll have the strength and flexibility to get through them.
I think that's a really reassuring message for our listener.
I hope so.
It's not about being perfect, but about being persistent.
Yeah.
Keep practicing those little acts of mindfulness, gratitude, and self-compassion. And over time, you'll build up that incredible reserve of resilience.
You will. And remember, you don't have to do it alone.
Right.
Option B really emphasizes the importance of community and connection.
Yeah.
Reach out to your support system, share your experiences, and learn from others who've been through their own challenges.
Right.
There's strength in numbers.
For sure.
And sometimes just knowing you're not alone can make all the difference.
Oh, so we've talked about building that resilience reserve
Right.
through mindfulness, gratitude, and connection.
Yeah.
But what about those times when life throws us a real curveball? Those big setbacks that shake us to our core. How do we tap into resilience when we feel like we're falling apart?
That's when it's even more important to use those resilience tools we've been talking about.
Okay.
But option B also had some specific strategies for those really tough times.
Like what?
One that really stuck with me is this idea of finding meaning in adversity.
Finding meaning in adversity. Can you give our listener an example of what that might look like?
Sure, imagine someone who loses a loved one.
Okay.
Their world is shattered and they're feeling so much grief and pain.
Right.
But as they go through the grieving process, they might start to find ways to honor their loved one's memory.
Okay.
Maybe by supporting a cause that was important to them or sharing their story to help others who are going through the same thing.
So it's about turning that pain into something positive, something that honors their loved one's legacy and helps others.
Exactly. It's not about denying the pain or pretending the loss wasn't huge.
Right.
It's about finding a way to create meaning from that experience.
Yeah.
A way to move forward with purpose, even when life feels incredibly hard.
That's such a powerful concept.
It is.
It's like finding those little glimmers of light in the darkness.
Yes.
Those reminders that even though bad things happen, we still have the power to choose how we respond
Right.
and create something positive.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And sometimes finding meaning can be as simple as shifting your perspective.
Okay.
So instead of focusing on what you've lost,
Yeah.
you can focus on what you've learned or the ways you've grown as a person.
It's like that saying, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade.
Exactly.
But in this case, it's about finding the lemonade stand within ourselves.
I love that.
That inner resourcefulness that lets us turn challenges into opportunities.
It's a great way to put it. And remember, finding meaning isn't a one-time thing.
All right.
It's a process, and it might look different for everyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What matters is that you're actively looking for those glimmers of light, those moments of connection, those sources of strength that can help you through.
Okay, we've talked a lot about the internal stuff of resilience.
Right.
Our thoughts, emotions, beliefs.
Yeah.
But what about the external factors?
Mm-hmm.
Our environment, the people we're around. How did those things affect our ability to bounce back?
That's a great question, and it's something option B talks about, too.
Yeah.
Remember that resilience reserve we talked about?
Yeah.
Part of building that reserve is creating a supportive environment for ourselves.
Okay.
This means having strong relationships with people who lift us up, doing things that bring us joy and purpose,
Right.
and taking care of our physical and mental health.
So it's like creating a resilience ecosystem
I like
where
saying.
all these different elements work together
Yeah.
to support our well-being.
Exactly. And just like an ecosystem, we need to be aware of things that might be depleting our resilience.
Yeah.
Like toxic relationships, negative self-talk, or unhealthy habits.
It's like doing an inventory of our lives.
Yes.
And making sure we're surrounded by things and people that nourish us.
Right, not the ones that drain us.
Not the ones that drain us, exactly.
And sometimes creating a more supportive environment means making tough choices.
Like what?
Like setting boundaries with people who bring us down, or letting go of activities that no longer serve us.
Those can be hard choices.
They can.
But ultimately, they're acts of self-care and self-preservation.
That's right.
It's about knowing what we need
Yeah.
and creating a life that supports our well-being.
You got it. And remember, building resilience isn't about becoming invincible.
Okay.
It's about giving ourselves the tools and resources to handle life's ups and downs
Right.
with grace, courage, and hope.
And sometimes those tools and resources come from unexpected places.
Yeah.
Option B talks about how important it is to hear stories of resilience from others.
Yes.
How that can inspire us to find our own strength.
It's so true. Think about a time when you were struggling with something,
Okay.
and a friend shared a story about how they overcame a similar challenge. Didn't it make you feel a little more hopeful?
Oh, definitely. Like, I wasn't alone in my struggle.
Exactly. And option B is full of these incredible stories
Really?
from people who've faced all kinds of adversity, loss, trauma, illness, setbacks, you name it.
Wow.
And these stories aren't just inspiring, they're also instructive.
Okay.
They show us that resilience is possible, even in the toughest situations.
It's like a reminder that we're all part of this human tapestry.
I love that.
And we're all connected by our shared experiences of
Yes.
joy, sorrow, and everything in between.
Beautifully said.
And by sharing our stories, we can learn from each other, support each other, and find strength in knowing we're not alone.
Absolutely.
This is so inspiring, but sometimes we're in the middle of it all. It's hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
It can be.
It can feel like we're just trying to survive,
Yeah.
one day at a time. So what advice does option B give for those moments when you feel like giving up?
One of the best pieces of advice is this. Don't try to do it all at once.
Okay.
Break down your challenges into smaller, more manageable steps.
Right.
And remember, even small acts of courage and self-care can make a big difference.
So it's about giving ourselves permission to take things one step at a time,
Yeah.
to celebrate those little wins, and be patient with ourselves as we heal.
Exactly. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is ask for help.
Oh, that's hard.
It can be.
But so important.
It is. Remember, resilience isn't about being a lone wolf.
Right.
It's about realizing we all need support sometimes.
I think that's such an important message.
It is.
Sometimes our pride or fear of being a burden stops us from asking for help.
Yeah,
But there's strength in vulnerability
absolutely.
and power in admitting we can't always do it alone.
Couldn't agree more. The book really emphasizes that asking for help isn't weak.
Okay.
It's a sign of strength and self-awareness. It's about knowing your limits and being willing to reach out.
This has been such an empowering conversation.
Yes.
It's easy to get caught up in the negativity and challenges.
Oh, sure.
But option B reminds us we all have the capacity for resilience,
Yes.
for growth, and even for joy, no matter what.
It's a reminder that we're not defined by our circumstances,
Yeah.
but by how we choose to respond to them.
And by building resilience, we can not only survive those tough times,
Right.
but use them to learn, grow, and become even stronger.
I love the, okay, my brain is officially full of resilience-boosting goodness.
Mine too.
But before we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Yeah.
I want to circle back to one of the most powerful ideas from option B,
Okay.
the importance of self-compassion.
Self-compassion. Yeah, it keeps coming up.
It does, and for good reason.
Right.
It's like the foundation of resilience.
Okay.
It's about treating ourselves with the same kindness, understanding, and forgiveness
Right.
that we would offer a loved one who's struggling.
Because we all deserve that compassion,
Yes, we do.
especially when we're facing challenges.
Exactly. But so often we're our own worst critics.
Ugh.
We beat ourselves up for our mistakes, dwell on our shortcomings,
Yeah.
compare ourselves to others,
Yeah, stop it.
and this negative self-talk can really hurt our resilience
Yeah.
and make it harder to bounce back.
It's like we have this inner bully
Yes.
that's constantly putting us down.
That's a great way to put it. And the first step to self-compassion is becoming aware of that bully
Okay.
and starting to challenge those negative thoughts.
So it's about recognizing those negative self-talk patterns and replacing them with more supportive and encouraging messages.
Exactly. Instead of saying, I'm such a failure, you might say, I made a mistake, but that doesn't mean I'm a failure.
Right.
Everyone makes mistakes, and I can learn from this.
Right.
Or instead of saying, I'm not good enough,
Okay.
you might say, I'm doing my best, and that's all that matters.
Those are great examples. It's about reframing those negative thoughts into something more realistic and compassionate.
Yes, but how do we actually make that shift?
Right, because sometimes those negative thoughts feel so automatic.
They do. It takes practice. But one helpful strategy is to imagine you're talking to a friend
Okay.
who's going through the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to them?
Yeah.
Would you criticize them for their mistakes?
No.
Or would you offer them kindness, understanding, and support?
Of course I'd be supportive.
Right. It's easier to be compassionate to others than to ourselves.
It is.
So next time you're stuck in negative self-talk,
Okay.
try to step back and imagine you're talking to a friend.
Yeah.
What would you say to them?
Right.
What words of comfort and encouragement would you offer? Then try to give yourself that same kindness and understanding.
It's such a powerful exercise.
It is.
It's like taking that compassion we have for others and turning it inwards towards ourselves.
Exactly. And as you practice self-compassion, you'll start to notice a shift in how you see yourself and your challenges. You'll be more forgiving of your mistakes,
Okay.
more accepting of your imperfections,
Yeah.
and more resilient when things go wrong.
It's like building a foundation of self-love and acceptance that can support us through anything.
Exactly. And that foundation will make it so much easier to handle challenges
Right.
with grace, courage, and hope.
This has been such a great exploration of self-compassion.
It has.
It's a reminder that resilience starts from within,
Yeah.
with how we treat ourselves and how we talk to ourselves.
Right.
And that by being kind to ourselves, we can unlock this amazing strength and resilience
Absolutely.
that'll help us on our journey through life.
I couldn't agree more. Self-compassion is like a superpower.
It is.
It can change our relationship with ourselves and the world.
And I think option B does a great job of showing us how to use that superpower
It does.
to create a life that's more fulfilling, meaningful, and resilient.
It really does. It's a book that I think everyone can benefit from.
Yeah.
No matter what stage of life they're in or what challenges they're facing.
Well, on that note of self-compassion and empowerment, let's take a short break.
Okay.
When we come back, we'll wrap up this deep dive with some final thoughts and takeaways from option B.
Sounds good.
That'll leave our listener feeling inspired and ready to take on the world.
Okay, we're back and ready to wrap up our deep dive into option B. You know, as we've been talking about all the different aspects of resilience, it's really interesting how they're all connected. They are. It's like a web.
Yeah.
Like mindfulness helps us manage stress, which gives us more space for self-compassion.
Right.
And self-compassion gives us the courage to connect with others,
Yeah.
which builds our support system. It's this beautiful cycle.
And that cycle can be especially important when we're dealing with something that option B focuses a lot on loss. Whether it's the death of someone close to the end of a relationship or even losing a job.
Right.
These experiences can really shake us to our core.
They can. And it's completely natural to grieve those losses. But the book really emphasizes that there's no one right way to grieve.
Okay.
It's different for everyone, and it takes time.
And it's not a linear process either, right?
Oh, not at all.
It's not like you just move through the stages and then you're done.
Exactly. It's messy. It's unpredictable.
Yeah.
It can be a whole roller coaster of emotions.
So what can someone do to navigate that roller coaster? What advice does option B offer for dealing with grief and loss?
One of the most important things is to let yourself feel those emotions.
Okay.
Don't try to push them down or pretend you're not hurting.
It's like that saying, the only way out is through.
Exactly. We have to face those feelings to heal.
And as you're going through those emotions,
Yeah.
it can be helpful to find healthy ways to express them.
It can.
Like talking to a therapist, journaling,
Yeah.
creating art, spending time in nature.
It's about finding outlets for that grief.
Right.
Ways to channel it into something productive or healing.
And remember, grief isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign of love. It shows how much you cared.
Exactly.
And sometimes that grief can transform into something even more beautiful, post-traumatic growth.
Post-traumatic growth.
We talked about it earlier.
Yeah.
But it's worth repeating.
It is.
It's that amazing thing where people actually come out of adversity stronger and more resilient.
It's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like those flowers that bloom in the most unexpected places.
Yeah.
Like through cracks in the concrete.
Right. Adversity can force us to dig deep, discover hidden strengths,
Yes.
and appreciate life in a whole new way.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's not about forgetting the past or pretending the pain wasn't real.
Right.
It's about finding those bits of hope and meaning that come out of the experience.
And sometimes those little bits can lead to a huge shift in our perspective.
They can.
We might realize what truly matters in life.
Yeah.
Rethink our priorities, or even find a new sense of purpose.
It's like a wake-up call.
Yeah.
Reminding us that life is precious and every moment is a gift.
And that's something we can all learn from.
Absolutely. Whether we've experienced a major loss or not.
Right. Option B challenges us to live more intentionally, to appreciate those everyday joys, and to be grateful for the people and things that are most important to us.
It's about making the most of every moment.
Yeah.
And using our experiences, even the tough ones, to fuel our growth and resilience.
I think that's a beautiful message to end on.
Me too. It's a reminder that we all have the power to choose how we respond to adversity.
Yeah.
To find meaning in our experiences and create a life that's full of purpose, joy, and resilience.
I agree. And option B gives us the tools and inspiration to do just that.
It does. It's a powerful reminder that we're not alone in our struggles.
Right.
And that even in the darkest times, there's always hope, always strength, and always the chance for growth and transformation.
Well said. And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive. Thanks for joining us on this exploration of resilience. We hope you found it helpful and inspiring. And remember, keep practicing those resilience building skills. Stay connected to your support system and never stop looking for those moments of joy and meaning, no matter what life throws at you.
And don't forget to ask yourself that powerful question. What would you do if you weren't afraid?
That's a good one.
Let that question guide you as you keep building your resilience.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep bouncing forward.